Hey everyone, it's Chris, and I am going to be starting my series where I'm going to be covering the subclasses for the Paladin. So in my first 4 videos of this series, I'm going to cover the Paladins in the 2024 Player's Handbook. I'm going to go over level by level the features they get. I'm going to give them a rating between 1 and 5 stars, 1 being crap, 5 being awesome, 3 being average, not too bad. And then I will be doing a follow-up video where I cover all the subclasses for the Paladin, including previous sources. Things from Tasha's or Xanathar's and all those. And then I am going to rank them all together. So you'll know, at least in my opinion, which Paladins are best and worst at each level. So each level that they gain features, I'll have them ranked for you. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about multi-classing for the Paladin. So there's a number of videos to come in my Paladin series. I've already done one on smiting, which was a couple weeks ago. I will link that up above, I suppose. But I'm going to be starting with the Oath of Glory Paladin. I consider doing it alphabetical, but I kind of like thematically the Oath of Glory, because if you are a paladin, if we consider the stereotypical paladin, we're talking plate armor, shining weapon. They are, they're mounted. They're basically the knight in shining armor, or at least by default, that's what they'd be seen by the various people they help. And for most paladins, this is just a byproduct of being the hero. But for the Oath of Glory, that's the goal, because the Oath of Glory is all about the renown. That's what they want. Fame makes a man take things over. That's the Oath of Glory. So it says, strive for the heights of heroism. Paladins who take the Oath of Glory believe they and their companions are destined to achieve glory through deeds of heroism. They train diligently and encourage their companions so they're all ready when destiny calls. These paladins share the following tenets. Number 1, endeavor to be known by your deeds. Number 2, face hardships with courage. Number 3, inspire others to strive for glory. So I like this thematically. It's a fun kind of theme to play for a paladin character, the one that, they do the heroic stuff, but, there's a selfish aspect to it where it's all about getting the applause at the end. In fact, that's, if you have a bard in the party and they give you inspiration, that's how they do it. Right? That's what the Oath of Glory is inspired by. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the mechanics. So we're going to go level by level for subclass features, and I'll go over them, I'll give you my opinions, and then I'll give you my star ranking. Okay? And of course, if you agree or you disagree and you want to talk about it in the comments, please do. All right, here we go. We're going to start with level 3. So Glory is a little bit different than the other 3 Paladins in the Player's Handbook in that at level 3, they get 1 extra feature. So the other Paladins, they get 1 feature, and then they get their additional spells. Their Paladin spells that they get a certain number prepared based on their level. The Glory gets those too, but they get an additional feature on top of that. And I will take that into account when I'm looking at my level 3 rating. We start with Inspiring Smite. Immediately after cast Divine Smite, you can expand 1 use of your channel divinity and distribute temporary hit points to creatures of your choice within 30 feet of yourself, which can include you. I imagine most often you're going to want to give temporary hit points to yourself, assuming you're playing a melee paladin, which most paladins are. The total number of temporary hit points equals 2d8 plus your paladin level, divided among the chosen creatures however you like. Now, the number of temporary hit points given here isn't too bad if it's given to 1 creature. You start splitting up 2d8 plus your paladin level, and it's not very much. So although you can distribute this, it's probably not a great idea because the temporary hit points are going to be so low. I really kind of figure you're going to always give this to 1 person, and probably most of the time to yourself after all your Oath of Glory, right? Maybe Oath of Devotion would give it to somebody else. Oath of Glory will take it for themselves. It's it's a decent amount, but you don't get a lot of uses of this. This is your channel divinity. You get 2 uses. It eventually scales, but barely. So you have 2 uses. At level 11, you get a 3rd use, and that's it. And you'll never get another use, and you get 1 back on each short rest. So that's, I mean, you can do it a number of times, but if we consider some of the other classes and the giving of temporary hit points, and I can't help but constantly go back to Pact of the Fiend, they're giving a similar amount of temporary hit points, a little bit less at lower levels, but eventually be pretty close. And they're doing it every time a creature drops next to them. And that's just going to be over and over and over again. Well, here it's a couple of times and an extra 1 after short rest. Not a bad feature, but I do think the amount that it gives is somewhat limited. Though I should mention there are a number of features in the game that give temporary hit points that are way, way lower than this. So I don't want to indicate by any case that it's not good. Just saying, if you read Split It Up and you start thinking you're giving all these temporary hit points to multiple creatures, you're not. And it is very limited in use. Okay. Level 3, also Oath of Glory spells. So here is our spell list. At level 3, we're going to automatically get Guiding Bolt and Heroism. So this is our level 3 stuff. Guiding Bolt for a Paladin with half casting. So we're talking about spell slots that scale much more slowly than a full caster, meaning a first level spell slot is pretty valuable for a Paladin. A one-time ranged blast for 4d6. I don't know if I'd spend a spell slot on that, even though it gives advantage on their next attack. I guess if you have no other option and you're at range, maybe, but this isn't a big deal to me for a Paladin. And Heroism. Heroism is decent at level 3 because the nice thing about Heroism is it suppresses the frightened condition. So you do not want your Oath of Glory Paladin to be frightened. So if you become frightened, you can cast Heroism on yourself and suppress it. It does use your concentration, though, so it can be broken. And once you get to level 11, you're going to get your Aura of Courage. You will now be immune to be frightened, and your allies within 10 feet of you will also be immune to frightened. So then Heroism's kind of obsolete. It also provides some temporary hit points, but of course temporary hit points don't stack, and we already have a feature giving us temporary hit points, and a lot more than Heroism. Heroism doesn't give you very many temporary hit points. They replenish each round, but yeah, Heroism's really about suppressing frightened. I guess, at between levels 3 and 10, this is still a good spell to have, but by level 11, I think it's basically redundant. Then at level 5, we're also going to get Enhance Ability and Magic Weapon. Magic Weapon would be great if you are playing in a campaign where you don't get magic weapons, because it's a good spell now. If you don't have a magic weapon, that already is better than the magic weapon spell. But magic weapon doesn't use concentration anymore. It has a good duration. It scales with your level. So, magic weapon is a decent spell for that kind of campaign. But for most campaigns, you're probably going to get a magic weapon. I mean, it depends on your DM, to be honest. I've been with DMs that just throw magic weapons at you. I've been at DMs that don't have magic weapons hardly at all. So it really depends. And then Enhance Ability. And Enhance Ability is more utility. You would use this out of combat, and in those cases, it can be okay. It's a decent utility spell. Fairly expensive. Second level spell slot for a Paladin is tough. But if you are, not in combat today, what else are you using your second level slots for? Then at level 9, we're going to get Haste and Protection from Energy. Protection from Energy, I think, is a disappointing spell. I really think in the 2024 rules, they should have just removed concentration from it, and it would have been just fine. But they kept concentration on it. I just don't think it's worth casting. So we have Haste. Haste can be a decent spell, but it really depends how you use it. If you think Haste is a spell that you're going to cast on yourself at the beginning of combat and then charge into melee so you can attack extra times, be prepared to lose your round or your turn, because you're going to lose your turn at some point. But Haste can be useful in certain situations, especially when things like mobility is a big factor. Haste can be huge in those cases. So haste is a decent spell, but it needs to be used carefully. Because if you lose concentration, you lose your next turn. At level 13, we're going to get Compulsion and Freedom of Movement. Compulsion is largely, a control spell. I'm not casting 4th level control spells with my Paladin that are single target. I'm just not. So I would never use this. Freedom of Movement, however, I'm absolutely using. Freedom of Movement basically makes you immune to most sources of paralyzed and restrained. You can escape a grapple, or you can escape the restrained condition. You use a little bit of movement. Excellent spell. Doesn't use concentration. So that's a good spell on their list. Level 17, they get Legend Lore. Legend Lore is super utility. Definitely only used on a day where you're not adventuring. Otherwise, you do not want to spend your 5th level slot on it. But if you're not doing anything else that day, I guess it's fine. It's not the best divination spell, I'll say that. And Yolande's Regal Presence. So this is one of those emanation spells. And you could compare it to Conjure Woodland Beings or Spirit Guardians. It's worse than Conjure Woodland Beings or Spirit Guardians. It does significantly less damage, even though it's a higher level. Knocks enemies prone and pushes them. But this is a very, very high cost for this kind of spell. Nevertheless, for a melee character, emanation spells like this are good. So this is not the emanation spell I would have hoped for, but having it on your list is okay. I have to wonder if I'd use this when I have spells like Circle of Power emanations. I don't know if I would, but I guess if you really, really want to focus on your offense and don't care as much about the defense, then maybe. But I don't think it's a great spell. And then we're going to get our third ability at level 3. So this, remember, is an extra that others don't get. Peerless Athlete. As a bonus action, you can expend 1 use of your Channel Divinity. So remember, your first ability used Channel Divinity as well. So you can use your Channel Divinity on temporary hit points or on this, not both. You could do them both at the same time, but it's going to use all your Channel Divinities. You can expand 1 use of your Channel Divinity to augment your athleticism. For 1 hour, you have advantage on strength, athletics, and dexterity acrobatics checks, and the distance of your long and high jumps increases by 10 feet. This extra distance costs movement as normal. Now, they did not change this 1 iota from the previous version. So we have an updated 2024 version of Oath of Glory, and they didn't change this, and that is astonishing to me. I think of all the things you might change on Oath of Glory, this seemed the most obvious. This was low-hanging fruit that they did not take. If you were playing with the 2014 rules, Peerless Athlete, the main reason you used it is you got the advantage on strength athletics checks, and that gave you advantage on your grapple checks. We don't make grapple checks anymore. They make a saving throw, so it no longer helps grappling. So strength athletics and dexterity acrobatics, these are utility primarily. I guess if you need to escape a grapple and you're making an escape check, maybe it would come up in play, but most of the time this is very, very circumstantial stuff. And then the distance of your long and high jump increases by 10 feet. And this uses movement as normal. Isn't it obvious what they should have done here? It just seems so obvious to me that, we're taking away the advantage on grapple checks because grapple checks don't work that way anymore. That's not the fault of this ability or the wording of this ability. It's just the way it is. So this ability becomes weaker. How do we make this ability better? Well, give this jump the same thing you give every other jump. You've done it with your magic items. You've done it with your invocations. Just have it be that you can expand 10 feet of movement to jump 30 feet. Just like everything else in the game. But nope. Oh, the glory gets screwed here. And that, to me, was really frustrating. This was such an obvious fix, as far as I was concerned, or upgrade, I guess. So Peerless Athlete is bad. If I look at Inspiring Smite, it's decent. If I look at the spells, they're okay. But level 3 is not all that impressive for Oath of Glory. I'm giving it 2 stars because if I look at the other Paladin subclasses, it's below average. So let's move on and look at level 7. And we get Aura of Alacrity. All right, so Aura of Alacrity. It says your speed increases by 10 feet. In addition, whenever an ally enters your Aura protection for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there, the ally's speed increases by 10 feet until the end of their next turn. And I'm giving this 3 stars. I'll just bring that up right now. And here's why it's worth 3 stars. So they improved this significantly from the 2014 version. In the 2014 version, for an ally to benefit from it, they had to start their turn in your aura. Not anymore. Now all they have to do is, on their trek, wherever they're going, pass through your aura, they get the 10 feet of movement. The other thing I really like about Aura of Alacrity is because it is an aura, and Paladins get Find Steed automatically now. They even get a free casting, so you should absolutely use it. Your mount is going to get that 10 feet of movement, assuming you're riding it. So that's nice as well, because if you're giving yourself movement bonuses and you're riding a horse or other kind of steed, what's the point if to your extra movement when you're not using your own movement? But here your mount gets that speed as well. So a lot of nice things here. This is not by any means the best level 7 aura available, but it's okay. And that's why it gets 3 stars. And there are worse ones. Okay, on to level 15. We're almost there. So level 15, we've got Glorious Defense. You can turn your defense into a sudden strike. When you or another creature you can see within 10 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can take a reaction to grant a bonus to the target's armor class against that attack. Remember, 1 reaction, 1 attack, because this comes up in this game over and over again, is do your reaction defenses work against 1 attack or against all attacks before your next turn? This one is one attack, potentially causing the attack to miss. The bonus equals your charisma modifier minimum of +1. You are level 15. You're either going to have a charisma bonus of +4 or maybe +5. And if you don't have +5, you probably have +5 at level 16. So it's probably going to be a level or +5 pretty quick. That's equivalent to the shield spell, but only for 1 attack. However, if the attack misses, you can make 1 attack with a weapon against the attacker as part of this reaction if the attacker is within the weapon's range. And I should point out that at most tables you should know whether this is going to work. It says when you or another creature you can see within 10 feet of you or is hit by an attack roll. Now, there are certain tables where the DM is super secretive, and they'll say, what's your armor class? Okay, you were hit, but they don't tell you what the enemy rolled or what the result was. There's other tables where the DM says, 24, does that hit you? Yeah, I had an armor class of 20. That, in those cases, with Glorious Defense, the Glory Paladin knows that if they use it, they will get the reaction attack as part of the defense. And then it's really good, because 1 defense against 1 attack is not the best. But 1 defense against 1 attack plus you get a free attack now is pretty good. The big limitation here is the uses. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So we're talking 4 or 5 uses probably. That's not bad. How many reactions are you even taking per long rest? I don't know. But 5 is probably going to be at least a decent portion of the turns you have even reactions to take. So yeah, the limitation here is definitely a significant limitation, but I still think this is not too bad. Worth 3 stars. And then we get to the capstone. And Paladins are special in that they don't get a class capstone. They get a subclass capstone, and they're the only class that does. And so every subclass is going to have its own capstone, and they definitely differ in how good they are. So let's look at glories. Level 20 Living Legend. You can empower yourself with the legends, whether true or exaggerated. I love the wording there, of your great deeds. As a bonus action, you gain the benefits below for 10 minutes. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. You can also restore your use of it by expending a level 5 spell slot, no action required. This is pretty standard now in recent subclass design for Paladins. 10 minutes bonus action. Wasn't that way in the 2014 Player's Handbook at all. And as we go back and look at some of the previous subclasses, we're going to see that's not the case. But what I do like about a bonus action use is that on round 1, you get to do something, right? It kind of sucks to have round 1, okay, I take an action to set up my feature, and on round 2, I'll start to get to use it. So you can use it right away as long as you haven't, invested too heavily in your bonus action. And we're going to get 3 things. Charismatic. You are blessed with an otherworldly presence and have advantage on all charisma checks. This can have some combat implications, like if you are, say, rolling a Dispel Magic check. It might come up. But this is also something that might come up out of combat. This could be something that if you are spending a day where you're just doing role-playing and social interaction stuff, you might use this, and you don't care about your 1 use per day or your 5th level slots because you're not going into combat anyway. So you get advantage on charisma checks. But you have enhanced ability. That was an automatic preparation for you. So you did have another way to get advantage on charisma checks, but that one does use concentration. Next we have saving throw reroll. If you fail a saving throw, you can take a reaction to re-roll it. You must use the new roll. Now, if you're a regular watcher of this channel, you already know I like saving throw stuff. Give me extra saving throw stuff. This is one of the few saving throw re-rolls now in the new rules that doesn't give you any kind of bonus. Usually it does. If you have Bardic Counter Charm, you get advantage on the roll. If you are a Zealot Barbarian, you get your Rage bonus to the roll. If you are a Mage Slayer, you just automatically succeed. If you are a fighter, you add your level to the roll. With Indomitable, here it's just a reroll. Nevertheless, 1 reaction per reroll, otherwise no limited use beyond the 10-minute time limit. So that's a lot of potential saving throw rerolls. You do have to use your reaction, but I think that's decent. And then Unerring Strike. Once on each of your turns, when you make an attack roll with a weapon and miss, you can cause that attack to hit instead. I really like this. The reason I really like this is because the Paladin makes 2 attacks normally, maybe 3, depends, right? You could potentially even make 4 if you're hasted and you have some like Polearm Master or using 2-weapon fighting, but probably 2 or 3. There is a decent shot that you'll miss with one of those attacks. And with Living Legend, there is a decent chance you'll never miss, right? Like if you were making 2 attacks a round, you're probably hitting once to twice per round. Here, you're just hitting twice per round. So I really like this. Also, there's an epic boon feat, which you could have taken at level 19, that allows you to do the same thing. And that's an epic boon feat, by the way. This is just a subclass feature. And if you took both of those, you could never miss, ever. So, yeah, I think that's pretty good. Overall, this capstone for the Paladin subclasses, I think, is above average. And so I gave it 4 stars. And so if we look at the Oath of Glory altogether, we have 2 stars for level 3, that's below average. 3 stars at level 7 is average. 3 stars at level 15 is average. And 4 stars at level 20 is above average. So we do have, by level 20, this subclass is average. However, if we're not level 20, if we're levels 1 or 3 through 19, which is most of the play of most campaigns, if not all of the play of a campaign, it's below average. And that's just because level 3 didn't quite keep up to the other subclasses. I really think if they had changed Peerless Athlete to update it to the 2024 rules properly, this would have been 3 stars, and this would be an average subclass. But I just don't think it's quite average unless you're level 20. And the capstone's good enough to bring it up to par. But yeah, that's really late to bring it up to par. So I want to go over Oath of Glory first because it's the one I'm maybe the most disappointed with. I don't think it's bad, obviously. Nothing got 1 star. I only gave 2 stars to one feature, but it's really unfortunate. That's level 3. Level 3 is worth 2 stars, and that's something that's just going to dog you for the rest of your career. So yeah, Oath of Glory is one of the misses in the new Player's Handbook. For the most part, I thought the Player's Handbook had mostly hits, but the Oath of Glory wasn't one of them, and that's a real disappointment because, like I say, thematically, Oath of Glory is one of my favorites. But yeah, mechanically, I just don't think it quite keeps up. It's not terrible. Like, if you want to play an Oath of Glory Paladin, don't let me dissuade you. You're going to do fine because the base Paladin is good, and the Oath of Glory features aren't that bad. They're okay. They're just a little bit below average. So just be aware that you're playing a below average subclass. Different subclass, you probably get a little bit more meat on it. Okay, so that's the Oath of Glory. In my next video, I'm going to go over Oath of Devotion. Oath of Devotion, I think, is very strong. I'll just give that spoiler right off, and I'll explain why in that video. Otherwise, until next time, I am going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everybody, and I will talk to you soon.